Start recording. Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to We Have a Take the What podcast. I am Tara Bowen Biggs, and I am so happy to be joined once again. My gosh, it's been a long time. By Rose Harding. Hey, Rose.
Hi, Tara. Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to you too. Can we still say that?
I don't know. It's technically still January, but we haven't recorded an episode in forever.
Yeah, it has been a long time, and I feel like just generally in the world, a lot has happened.
Yeah,
We
that's
definitely
right.
need to get caught up on what's been going on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because also in Blazerland, a lot happened this month. We had the snowstorm. We had,
The Great Ice Gate.
right, that's right. Do we call it Ice Gate? I don't even know.
I don't know. I just made that up off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody has a much better name for the debacle that made it so that DeAndre Ayton couldn't get out of his house. That was
Yeah.
that was wild. We can't talk about it because everybody else has talked about it, but I'm sure everybody listening who's from Oregon or from Portland understands that nobody understands unless they're here.
That's right. That's right. It's fine. Everybody here knows what went wrong because we all are literally driving by trees that have fallen on the side of the road and are getting cut up to be taken away right now. And I don't know about you, but I still see power lines down. So
Hmm. Yeah,
here,
I was just driving around Lake Oswego yesterday, and the number of trees that are down, and not just like a tree here and a tree here, but like a dozen trees have just fallen in this one area. And just thinking about a town like Lake Oswego, not a big town, they don't have a big public works department. And so while this whole thing was going on with DeAndre Ayton, people were like, how come they couldn't get him out? And it's like, that's not who our public works departments are supposed to prioritize.
mm-mm.
That would be if they'd been sent out, it would have taken them away from, the job of, that would have a larger impact, I guess.
Yeah. And that's not exactly a way to ingratiate yourselves to your citizens, is to spend all of your resources getting a basketball player out for a basketball game when there's people with literally no power and burst pipes
Hmm.
and live power lines down. That's where they should be spending their time and money.
Well, and also he's been out for a few weeks with knee issues.
Right.
And he makes a lot of money. And I know every time I step on the ice, like if I go down, tweak my knee, it's not that big of a deal. But to send him out to go step on this ice, oh, that's just not. I guess the only thing that I have heard that is a logical coulda, shoulda, woulda is that knowing that there was likely something coming in, the Blazers could have gotten him out earlier before all this happened and put him in a hotel. So I wouldn't be surprised if moving forward, when there's projected ice storms, that they might get people out, and it's just you know, whether or not the ice storm comes doesn't matter, but they were somewhere close to the arena. Um,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can think of. That's the only thing that I heard was like, okay, I can give you that.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I remember we had another ice storm maybe 5 years ago, and they actually postponed a game. And I remember Mason Plumlee taking a photo in front of the Moda Center because he walked there because he lived downtown or something.
Hmm.
And he was able to walk to the arena. Um, but not everyone lives in a place where they could reasonably get to the arena on foot safely. Quite frankly, I don't even know if I want 7-footers walking around in on like the sidewalks with ice because it's very sketchy for me, and I am 5'3".
Think how far he had to fall.
Yes, people of that size do everything with a ton of impact behind
Hmm.
their body movements, and
Right.
maybe just maybe just it's fine if he takes an extra day off and make sure that his body stays well.
Right, right. I mean, because he hadn't played anyway, like one more
Yeah.
game. Yeah, and the only thing that the last thing that I will say on that is that I did see a local writer say, why didn't the Blazers throw, a snowmobile after him? And but in my mind, that created the best t-shirt. Like I so want a t-shirt of somebody on a snowmobile going to rescue DeAndre Ayton. I want Trailblazing to make some kind of a t-shirt about that because I think that would be really funny.
Put DeAndre Ayton on a snowmobile in a Santa hat
Yes.
and goggles. Yes. No, I'm with you. I would
Yeah.
buy that one for
Yeah.
sure.
There's a lot of creative people on Twitter. I'm sure somebody could come up with something.
That's right. Also, we don't have to think about that ever again because that was just NBA Twitter losing its mind, figuring out something, a solution to a problem that like wasn't actually a solution because they didn't really understand the problem. So that's fine. We'll just
Yeah.
move on.
I'm trying to learn from it and trying to think about like all the reactions that people outside of Portland had to a thing that we've done in Portland. And if I'm having a dramatic reaction to like something that's happening in OKC or something that's down in Los Angeles, like why don't they just do this? To remind myself that I don't know the whole situation like the people down there do and give them a little grace as I wish that maybe people had given us some grace.
Yeah, I'll say one of the most impactful moments I've ever had traveling in my life is when I was in Phoenix visiting my friend. Incidentally, that friend who lives in Phoenix was here visiting me during the ice storm.
Oh,
So she got to experience our ice storm. But when I was visiting her in Phoenix once, they had a monsoon, which is a ton of rain. And like the whole city was shut down because all the streets were flooded. Now, their streets are not really built to drain like our streets. Their streets are
mhm,
flat. Their curbs are twice as high to accommodate it so it doesn't like leak out, but like they don't drain like ours do. So, like every intersection was flooded. The whole city shut down, accidents everywhere. And I was like, oh, this is a mess. It's just rain. But I'm saying that as somebody from Portland. Like, yeah, it's
mhm,
just rain to me, but my streets are like designed to drain really well. And we get rain constantly. And even if we'd had like monsoon level rain, like it would have been bad, but like there probably wouldn't be quite so many accidents because we're all used to driving in rain.
mhm.
Not true for people who live in the desert. And so when I think about that's like I think about like a ice storm here. It's like rain there. It's like, like there's all just like everyone's kind of used to the type of weather that they have and their infrastructure is built differently. And I just like try to sit humbly in my spot thinking like,
Mhm.
I don't really understand how their infrastructure is built. Maybe they can accommodate rain. Maybe they can't. Maybe their streets are flat with super high curbs. Maybe they're curved like ours in the center so that it like flows nicely to the edges and then drains, through sewage drain pipes. Like maybe it's like that, but maybe it's not. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, we could go on and on about infrastructure, but we will save everybody
Super
that.
sexy topic, everybody. Infrastructure.
I do like a good infrastructure talk. We are here today at the little bit past the midpoint of the season, and so we thought this might be a good time to check in on the awards, just to remind ourselves the awards that we are looking for, and to see if anybody has risen to the top or somebody we have our eye on for them. And I just wanted to remind myself and others that the reason that we came up with these awards partly because we needed something to keep us busy during these seasons, which maybe aren't about wins.
What are you talking about?
So we tried our best to come up with categories that we could have fun with, and it's supposed to be all about fun. So I don't know. Are you having fun this season, Rose?
I think so. Well, I don't know. Like, I'll say, I think that there is, like, the floor is a lot higher on fun when you aren't expecting or trying to win exactly. Because there's a lot of things that I would normally worry about that I just don't worry about.
Mhm.
You're not worried about, like, oh, we missed that win by a couple of points. I mean, it's disappointing because I like winning,
Yeah.
but I'm not like, oh, it's the end of the world. Look at where we fell. Like, oh, are we gonna be a 6 seed? Are we gonna be an 8 seed? Are we gonna be in the play-in? Like, I don't have to think about any of that stuff. And I'm like, leave that for the people that are contending. I'm just here to watch a good time and see like the guys end the season in a better place than they started. And like, I don't know. So it's more fun because I don't have to worry about like that higher level. Are we really going to contend for a championship stuff? How about you?
I 1,000% agree. I was listening to the Jack Ramsey's podcast with Danny Meringue and Brandon Sprague. And when Danny and I were on Blazers Edge podcast together, we had sort of like a running joke about him and his high expectations, me and my low expectations. And I always like tell him that he ruined me and he made me have high expectations, and then I didn't have as much fun anymore. So last year, when things were in the summer, when things were starting to go south, it became clear we were a tanking team, a team that was going to be trying to build through the lottery. Dan said to the masses a few times, oh, Portland, people are not ready for this. People do not know what this is going to be like. We are not built for this. We have been in this other mindset for so long. We're completely unprepared for what this is going to look like. And I told him, I was like, you know what? I actually think I am built for this. Built for exactly this. Because like you, I just want to see progress. I don't want to stress out every game about every little thing. Like, and I think a really good example of this is I did not watch. I've given myself the ability to decide I'm not going to watch a game if I don't want to. So I
Yeah.
actually did not watch the Oklahoma City game on, what was it, Monday night? Because
Mm.
it was the premiere of The Bachelor. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch the premiere of The Bachelor instead. So I didn't watch the Oklahoma City game, although I was checking it, on my phone the whole time. And I was like, dang, the Blazers are doing pretty well. They're right there in there. Oh, they got a small lead. Oh, they're like, back and forth. This is great, especially since the last time they played them, they lost by 62 points. So
Yeah.
for me, when I saw like how the final score and was looking at the box score, which is I guess not what you're supposed to do, but I was doing it anyway. I was like, that's awesome. Like I was
Yeah.
perfectly happy. And then I turned to Twitter and saw what actually happened at the end of the game. And I was so grateful that I didn't watch the game because I wasn't invested. And so I didn't even get mad. I'm still not mad because I'm just like, they played so much better against a really good team, and that's all I feel. And so
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
I love that because honestly, like, so like if we were a contending team, seeing a win get stolen from you would be like
It would make
upsetting.
a big difference. Like right now, the top of the West, as it always is like so tight, and losing one game like that would just be like, oh my gosh, it would just be like, oh, it would be the worst. And now it's like,
Yeah. And I would be like, good, you like good Blazers. You like say you're gonna challenge or whatever, and then not do it. Fine, just like make your grievance known, and that's good enough for me.
mm-hmm,
Um, I yeah, I feel the same way. I did watch that game. I saw it happen, and I gotta be honest, so I was mad like everybody else when I watched it, but also I was like, there was a part of me that was like, I don't really care if we win this game. I like that we played up all the way and we were in it until the very end. I like that. And that was fun, but like winning or not, like it's actually better if we lose based on the position that we're in it now. It's like you're not going to contend, you might as well lose. But like uh, I'll say we got to see a couple of things that I was very interested to see. We got to see Chauncey Billups get upset and get
mm-hmm,
two technicals and tossed from the game. I was like, "Oh, this is your first ejection. Welcome, coach. Good for
mm-hmm,
you." And then the other thing was I was like, "Oh, but I hope you learned this lesson because I saw that you screaming on the sideline and granted they should have given you a timeout, but also you weren't doing the thing.
uh-huh,
You didn't give them the hand sign so that they can't hear if they can't hear you, they have to be able to see you. And you know what? Like that's a lesson on you.
mm-hmm,
Everyone's still learning here.
yep,
That's fine." And then at the end of the day I'm like, "Okay, well we lost. That's probably better for us anyway. Make your grievance known, move on." It's OKC, like that team was like desperate for any win that they can get because they're like going to contend this year.
mm-hmm,
So like every win helps them. And for us, I'm like, another
yeah.
loss.
I
Throw it
mean,
on the pile.
imagine if at the end of the season they were in like the third seed instead of the first seed because they lost that game. That would have been a huge impact on them. So yeah,
Yeah.
I I also look forward to a future where every game doesn't come down to like one mistake and they lost it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like someday maybe they'll be up by 10 at the end of the game and we'll be like, "Great, we got this. This is great." We're not there yet. And I agree, like I, I winning is more fun.
Mm.
Winning is more fun. I will give the universe that. But it's just as far as like having the not to shoulder this huge burden of like every game counts so much. I think it's really nice to have a couple years where we can take that off. I don't know how many years I'll be able to maintain that attitude, but I think I'll be able to last a pretty long time.
I don't know if I can last quite as long as you, but I can last a while, especially if like when I look back at the end of the season, I see growth from my team.
Mhm.
And I'll be like, "Oh, I'm so proud of so and so. They figured out, how to play better defense." I'm so proud of Jabari Walker, who really made a huge leap from last year to this year already, and I like can't wait to see where he is at the end of the season. Like that's all stuff that makes me feel really good.
Mhm.
And like I'll say this, even if this is like the guys that we have now, like I know these are not all the guys that like are going to be here when it's time for us to like contend. I really enjoyed watching them develop, and I will be very happy to see them continue to develop elsewhere and get good opportunities on other teams too. That's the other thing is like I'm not looking at our guys and being like, "Oh, it'll break my heart when they all leave." I'll be like, "No, it was good. This was good for now, and if you move on someday and you get another chance with another better, bigger, different role on a different team, like good for you. Like you earned that." And I was so proud to watch you like get to that point.
Mhm.
It's like
I'm
how I feel about watching Trendon
yeah. Yeah, good for him, and we actually got to watch
Nurk.
him play.
Yeah, you did.
We had, I was just thinking about this the other night that even though I'm enjoying this team. Like,
Yeah,
I'm enjoying all the players, and I am enjoying the veteran roles that the veterans were playing, and I feel like they put together a good mix, considering it wasn't like, "Okay, this is the guy that's gonna put him over the top." We're not doing that anymore. We're not, like,
Mhm.
collecting, like, a bunch of parts and saying, "This is it. This is gonna be the team that contends." We're collecting a bunch of parts that have clear roles. Like, Malcolm Brogdon's role is to be the point guard who knows what he's doing, so
Yeah,
that the other point guards can learn from him. And, Anfrenee Simons, like, he's played enough point guard that he knows what he does as a
yeah,
point guard. But Scoot Henderson is likely going to be a different kind of point guard than Anfrenee Simons is. So Malcolm Brogdon is here to be the point guard that Scoot can watch. I've also really liked having Jabari in the starting lineup for a number of reasons, but I think we sometimes forget about that his development is very important too.
yeah,
And he's a second year player, and putting him alongside like Jerami and DeAndre, like guys who are young and inexperienced, there's one, they get something out of just playing together and trying to work it out, but they also get something else out of playing alongside guys who know what they're doing, so that they can learn how to do the predictable and, right thing that somebody in that position is supposed to do. So I really liked having Jabari playing alongside like Jeremy and learning how to play at a higher level because he's playing against players with higher level skills.
yeah. And also like, we see the way Jabari has been like applying what he's learned from last year this year. Like last year I felt like he was learning like how to play in the NBA cuz like not like the rules are different but the play is different.
Mhm.
It's faster, it's like it's more physical like he's like I'm really pleased to see how well he like I don't know, bangs under the hoop with guys. Like,
Mhm.
he holds his own. He's figured out really good ways to not foul. Like he gets good rebounds. I mean, he always kind of got good rebounds, but like he's been a lot better at finishing this year, I think, than he was last year. Like it's really like great to see him like apply what he learned last year this year to make him a more impactful like NBA player. And I can see the vision for him now. Like I couldn't see it last season, he felt really raw. Um but you could tell he had a really good sense for where the ball was gonna go. But like now I can see the vision. I'm like, he could be a really good 3-4 kind of guy and a really good like kind of aggressive like bench guy to like jump start the second unit. Like
Mhm.
it he doesn't have a super diverse set of skills yet, but he doesn't need one yet. He looks so much, I don't know. I just feel like he like grew up before our eyes between last season and this season.
Yeah, he's made a lot of strides. And you said something while you were talking that really stuck with me and struck me as like what I like about it is that people have an idea of what their role is. And before it was like, here's Kent Bazemore. And it's like, and I feel like there's more of a plan, even if it's like the plan is not to like get them into the playoffs. The plan is to develop. I can see it. I see the vision in a way that I didn't before. And I don't know if that's just because the vision is clear to me when you're talking about development, or if it's just because this front office has a more clear vision than maybe the last one did.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like that Kent Bazemore type of role, they tried to put like 4 or 5 guys in that for so many years, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody was trying to like fill this impossibly shaped role that we didn't even super know what it was, but they just kept on being like, okay, Aaron Aflalo's the guy this time, or now it's Kent Bazemore, or now it's Mario Hezonja. Like they were always trying to like slot somebody in, and we were just like, is this one any
Yeah.
different?
It's like the role was take us over the top. You
Yes.
know, the
Yes.
role wasn't, solid defensive player who's a good shooter.
Hmm.
It was like the role was the final piece.
Right. Which is a ton to for a player to carry, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't work, the idea is that like it's because you weren't good enough in that role, when maybe the role wasn't, like, I don't know, right sized, or like really fully fleshed out. Like, I don't even know if it was fair to like say that was the role, because I don't even know if like they really knew what they were asking of
They
these
knew what the role
guys.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, like they were just like, we're close, but we're not there yet, and you're gonna be the guy that gets us there. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, like maybe like a a doomed mission from the beginning, that Aaron Aflalo wasn't gonna fill, that Kent Bazemore wasn't gonna fill, that Trevor
Mario
Ariza wasn't gonna
Hazonia,
fill. Like
Hassan
how many guys
Whiteside.
we saw so many guys come through in that role, and it was just like, some of them were better at it than others, but none of them helped get them over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I I'm very happy to see guys like finding kind of what their role is now, or like what it could be. Because I think that there's a lot of guys that are early enough in their careers that like they don't really know what kind of players they're going to be. And they
Mm-hmm.
could be a lot more versatile, honestly, than the role we try to fit them into anyway.
Did you listen to the Anfrenee Simons when he was on the Old Man and the Three with JJ Reddick?
I didn't. It's in my
It
list. It's in my
is
queue though.
so good, and I recommend and if everybody go listen to it, because he talked about like sort of year by year his journey and what he was working on for his first several years here, and I think it's super illuminating for those of us who are going to be watching a lot of guys taking those steps the same way Anfernee Simons did, because again, Anfernee Simons didn't play in college. So,
Mm,
and some of these guys that we have now, Shaden was with a college team, but he never played on it. And then, of course, Scoot didn't do college. So, looking and seeing how Anthony's development progressed, I think could be really illuminating, because he talked about like the first year that he actually got playing time was all about just like figuring out what is my NBA shot, and like
mm,
what is it like, and so he had to take all kinds of shots. He had to take all the shots to figure out which was the one that was his, and then in subsequent years they worked on, okay, how do you get that shot, right?
yeah.
So first discover what it is, and then we'll figure out how you can get it. So like if people are mad because Scoot is taking too many of this kind of shot or too many of that kind of shot or whatever, like maybe the plan for Scoot is go figure out what your shot is. Take all the shots,
Yeah.
and then we'll figure out how we can get those for you. So it was super interesting to listen. So I highly recommend it to people to go listen to it. That was on Old Man and the Three pretty recently.
I think that JJ Reddick has a really great podcast, and I've heard a lot of really interesting stories from players from like their perspective on that podcast. I love the idea that it's like your job when you're young to take a lot of shots, because I remember people kind of complaining about Breath
Oh,
shooting too many threes.
anybody
And
has any complaints about WAP, they have to come through me because I have no complaints.
but I was like, maybe it's his job to just take a few threes, and like if you're a big that can shoot it like well enough from out there, it changes like the size of the floor. Like we
Mhm,
saw Nurk doing that more and more towards like to the end of his time in Portland. He was taking more threes. Like if you're able to hit that shot from time to time, it just changes the way people have to play you. And like I'm watching like Nurk play quite a bit now, and with Phoenix, and like he still pulls it out every now and again.
mhm,
Like it just changes things up, and it forces people to like think about playing you differently. And
mhm.
so I'm all for him taking some threes, figuring out if that's part of his bag or not. Like I don't know. I
Mhm.
have no problem with him taking those threes. I have no problem with Scoot trying to take those pull-up threes. Like, do whatever you want out there. Figure out what's yours. Figure out what you can make yours, even if it's not yours yet. Because I think that there's definitely guys who are like, "Oh, what's your shot?" And then there's also guys, but what shots can you still take? Because not everybody's going to shoot just their own, like their highest percentage
Yeah.
shots. They
You're
have to be
gonna
able to take some other ones, but that are still viable and good.
Well, and I hadn't thought about it from the perspective of, okay, now how are you going to get that shot? And what
Mm,
are we as a team gonna do to make sure you get that shot? Like, how's DeAndre Ayton gonna move to free up Scoot? Just like we watched, Nurk figure out how to move to first get Dame space and then to get Anfrenee space. So I don't know. I just thought it was super interesting. But we're supposed to be talking about the what awards. We haven't even gotten to them. So we can take this conversation wherever we want, but I'm going to give us some guideposts.
okay.
And that first award that I wanted to check in on about is the Bench Celebrator Man of the Year award. This is one we've given every year. It's one of the hardest ones to give.
It's
Uh,
very hard.
it is really hard. And every year about halfway through I'm like, why are we doing this award again? Because it's fun. We're trying to have fun. Basketball should be fun.
Yes. Bench Celebrator Man of the Year. So I'll say this. It's been hard to see on television who the bench celebrator man of who's like leading in the bench celebrator man of the year. Um I will say I think more often than not guys are more guys notice are standing just in general on the bench or like more throughout the game. Um and I will say I, some of those guys who are like like I don't want to say the perpetual bench guys, but guys you don't always see a lot of playing time. Some of those guys are like I see them up for lots of stuff. Like
Mhm,
not even just like Shea highlight dunks,
mhm.
Like but I don't know. What do you see in the arena? I only see it on TV.
Well, so I think mostly I forget to watch, and so I do have to go back and watch TV to find to see the bench celebrations. And we had some like extremely sort of like high level outliers of guys who were really good at bench celebration. I mean, we had Wesley Matthews coming up with the arrow 3-point shot like on
Mm,
purpose because he was on the bench and he was going to get the bench excited about it. And then we had Zach Collins, and when he was really good at it, he was still like the youngest, but I felt like those older players were kind of like egging him on.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I just don't think, I think there is a culture here to be very excited about your guys and, obviously cheer your team. But I don't think that they are established enough to really be able to have the extra time to think about what kind of cool celebrations are we going to come up with. They're not
Hmm.
doing the coordinated ones like some of the more experienced teams do. So
Yeah.
I don't have like super high expectations, but somebody could change my mind. Somebody could be like, you know what? That Wes Matthews like 3-point shot bow and arrow thing was cool. I'm gonna like come up with a tribute to that. That having been said, I did my regular trick, which is to go to stats.nba.com and watch all of the Portland makes at the home games in the first half. Because
Whoa.
that's when they're shooting in front of their bench most of
Yeah.
the time. Most of the time, they're shooting in front of their bench at the first half and then defending in front of the bench the second half.
Right.
So you can just go there and you can play little, all the videos on repeat. And the one person that stood out to me, Justin Minaya is almost always the first one up. He is a
Yeah.
quick stander.
Yes, he
He
is. He
he
is.
jumps up
Yes.
before anybody else does.
And I could tell it's because of his hair from far away.
So for
Um,
lack of anybody else, he's my leading contender.
Also, Ish Wainwright was a really good bench
Oh,
celebrator.
he
And I
was.
and also he was easy for me to tell because he wore that headband.
Hmm.
So like even if from far away, I would be like, that's Ish.
Yeah, and he was also a really good dresser. So when he was on the bench because he was injured, he was easy to stand out because he usually had like a brighter outfit that was easy to spot in the crowd, not just like gray
Mhm.
sweats.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked Ish. He seemed like a really good vibes guy, but he also looked a lot like Gary Payton. So I did suffer a little bit because of shock every once in a while. Like, it's that Gary Payton. No, okay, it's Ish Wainwright. It's okay.
Oh, well, now I have to take that with me. So thanks a lot.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hope Gary Payton is happy where he is. And I hope Ish Wainwright is very happy and thriving. Um,
He was a good vibes guy, I thought, for us. And I was really happy that we had him, even though like he didn't really play a whole lot. Like the more like I think like experienced players that we could bring around some of these younger guys, I think is like a really good way to like have good vibes, have good culture, help players like last the length of the season. Cause like I feel like that's like probably one of the more surprising things about the NBA is like you play so many games, you travel so much. Like,
oh my gosh, one of my favorite stories this season was somebody asked, I think somebody asked Scoot what advice Shaden had given him.
oh,
And
okay.
Shaden had told Scoot, it's an 82 game season and then there's the playoffs. So you really gotta be careful and pace yourself and take care of yourself. And I was like, that is so cute that Shaden was talking about the playoffs. I was like, oh, that hope. Hold on to that hope. I love that. Obviously, like somebody had drilled that into his head. It's an 82 game season, then you got the playoffs. And I was like, yes, Scoot. It's an 82 game season, and someday we'll have the playoffs.
I do like this idea though that somebody is teaching him though
Hmm.
to think this way. Cause like he's taken several games off this year because he has that adductor
Shaden.
injury. Yeah, Shaden. And like I think that's like also a good way to like explain to guys like we have to rest you. Like you're injured, you could play through this, but we need you to last the entire season, not just play through this injury until you can't do it anymore.
Hmm.
And I like that meant like these guys are learning that mentality of like care for your body along the way and don't take off don't bite off more than you can chew and pay for it later in the season. Like I think that even though they're not in the playoffs now, I think it's still a good way to think about your like season and like your
Hmm.
body. Especially
And
like the younger guys, because like the younger guys probably feel like they can play through more.
that's true. Yeah. And we want them planning to play late in the year.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason that tickled me. Okay, I'm going to say one thing that is a joke and is not necessarily for further discussion, but it's just a really easy joke that's sitting out there. I wonder if the Blazers had more of an alpha, if they would have more of a hierarchy and a better bench celebration. Somebody organizing the bench celebrators.
An alpha bench celebrator.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because they're
We
all
would
sort of
really
cool guys.
Yeah, it's true. We might need an alpha bench celebrator in order to execute bench celebrations at a higher, more consistent level.
All right. Anything else to talk about bench celebrator?
Um, no, I have
Okay.
nothing.
Let's move on to the next award, a perennial favorite, most improved fits. This year we went back to our original most improved fits. I can't remember where we landed. Like, did we ever decide if we meant improved from last year or improved from the beginning of the year to the end of the year? Did we ever decide? I can't
I
remember.
don't know.
Okay.
I do think
Doesn't
it's
matter.
fairer if
Does it
it's the
matter?
beginning of the year to the end of the year, just because a lot of these guys weren't on this team last year.
That's true. That's true.
Like we got a bunch of rookies, got a bunch of guys we like that weren't on this team last year. Like improvement maybe over the course of the season is a fairer measure so that everybody can be included.
Mhm. Do you have a front runner for this award?
Yes, but I think that the whole like all of our listeners have a front runner for this one. And it's Jabari Walker,
Mhm.
who we learned from the wonderful reporting of Brooke Olzendam got a stylist this year. So it makes sense that his bits are quite improved.
Mhm.
He's rocking a stylist.
He looks
Good for
great.
him. He looks so
I
good.
I think it's his to lose. I he's when I was trying to find like other guys who may be in competition with him, I was like, okay, the first guy to wear constructed pants, the first guy to not wear sweats could be, obviously besides Jerami, could be like in contention for this. And I think that's like a big leap if you're wearing sweats and then you're not wearing sweats.
Yeah.
And still waiting. Although Anfrenee Simons did wear sweatpants, but they didn't have cuffs. They were sweatpants that were cut more like regular constructed pants. So
Did they have an elastic waistband? Because
I don't
that
know.
is,
Couldn't see the
I
waistband.
was gonna say, because like for me, it's about the elastic waistband. And maybe that's just because that's how I like think about women's pants. But like
Mhm.
once you've like graduated to like like pants that have a button or like a zipper or like you've made it into like pants that look,
Yeah.
they just look different. Um, I will say some of the guys' sweatsuits have improved.
Hmm. As far as sweatsuits go, I do see improvement.
But like I will say last year I saw the potential in Jabari because I remember him rocking an outfit that was perfectly matched to his rookie bag. He had a pink
Mm.
and blue rookie backpack, you know, and he rocked an entire pink and blue outfit to like accessorize, to like have like the backpack accessorize the outfit. And I was like, that dude's got potential. And so I'm so happy to see him like doing well fashion wise this year because I was like, I always knew you had it in you. Like this is I feel like this is your award to lose this year. You've really like stepped up your game. You're wearing real pants, you're wearing shades. I love his hair this year. Like Jabari's on one
You could
fashion
see the
wise.
potential in him early.
Yes, he just had just like last year I was like, "Oh, you're raw, but like there's potential there." And now I see the vision for his like fashion.
Hmm.
So, like good for him. And also I'll say this, Jeremy's always great, but he's been great.
Hmm. Oh, that reminds me that Jerami is up for All-Star for League Fits. So if people want to go vote for Jerami, League Fits is the Instagram account. It's a really fun account. It is really fun. And every year they have an All-Star award. And so Jerami is up for that. So people go find that on Instagram in their bio. You can go vote for Jerami. The one other player who I want to just note is I think Scoot has some real potential because he definitely does actually wear other pants occasionally.
He
And
does.
he had some like really cute, like plaid, like really big flowy ones that looked like something that Jerami would wear. I think what I'm looking for with Scoot is a vision. Like I think
Mm,
right now he's trying a lot of stuff. He's young. It makes perfect sense. And so I think if we can like see it settle down into like, what do you call it? What do you call a fashion? Not an attitude. I don't know. I don't follow enough fashion on Instagram. I should do more. A point of view. There we go.
yeah.
I think if he evolves into a point of view, I think Scoot potentially could maybe give Jabari some competition.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I wanted to also shout out DeAndre because I think DeAndre also wears regular pants. And he loves to rock big jewelry.
Yes.
Like like a lot of his outfit is built around like the jewelry as like the centerpiece. And he has this one, like I haven't seen him wear it lately, but I saw him, he wears this one really gorgeous chain that like,
Like literally looks like ice. The one that has so
yes,
many diamonds on it that it literally looks like ice.
but it looks so good
Mhm.
on him.
Mhm.
And he wears it so well and he clearly like builds outfits to like showcase it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. He loves jewelry, and I think that's really interesting because like, last year we concentrated on accessories and we really didn't have guys who like really loved jewelry. And I remember
Hmm.
seeing they did like a GQ thing with DeAndre Ayton, and he really talked about his jewelry and his watches and he really loves it, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy always has like nice jewelry, and I think, but like it's more like understated because like his outfit, like the
Mhm.
tops, the bottoms, the shoes, like they're all part of like an outfit. But like DeAndre really dresses to like showcase the jewelry as like that's the fashion item that he's like showcasing, whereas like Jeremy's is more of like a complete thing. Jeremy
Mhm.
also pulls out like glasses and hats and like he's got like a whole thing going on. And like DeAndre's like, I got a relatively simple outfit on that all looks really nice together, but it's really just to make this jewelry pop.
Yeah. No, I think DeAndre is a really good dresser. It's so funny that I don't know if it's just like the way he's shaped or what, but sometimes his outfits look to me kind of like they fit him the way they would fit like a 5-year-old. And I can't quite explain why, but like, the pants pulled all the way up, like your mom dresses you and is like, no, that's your waist. That's where your pants go. And it's not like he's walking around like with high-waisted pants or whatever, but just like the way they fit, something about the way they fit. I'm always like, oh, he looks like he's like a 5-year-old in jammies.
He and Matisse both
Mm,
wear like high waters
yes.
sometimes. They wear like high water pants. So like
Hmm.
they're like above the ankles. They're not shorts. They're like not even quite capris. They're just like shants, like short pants.
Matisse is a guy with a point of view. That,
Yeah.
you're right. He always wears high waters. He wears cute tennis shoes with usually low socks, and then he'll wear like a sweatshirt or a sweater with a collared shirt underneath it. But they're
Hmm.
always different, and he rotates through, or they're not, maybe not always different, but he rotates through and you don't get bored with it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely think he has a point of view. If he ever like maybe started like adding some prints or a little extra accessories, maybe he would be in contention too. Worth
Matisse
watching.
Matisse has like a very West Coast vibe to me.
Hmm.
Like it's pretty laid back. He wears a lot of chucks. Like when I see him, I'm like, I dated a guy like that in college. He dressed exactly like that. He
I like
looks
him.
comfy.
Hmm. Yeah, I like him more and more as time goes. I always like appreciate him and thought like, oh, cool. But the more I watch him play, the more fun it is to watch him. I'll just watch him alone for long stretches, and he's just really fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's really nice to appreciate somebody just like, I don't know, be like a beast on defense.
Hmm.
Like watching guys be good on defense because it was like so like there were so many years where our best defender was just like okay. And like now, and now we have these guys that are like quite exceptional, I think, on defense, and they're not like, oh, dependent on a system or something. They're just like on an individual level are quite exceptional defenders. I think Kamara has flashes where he looks like a really exceptional defender. Um, Matisse is a really exceptional defender. Like I just really like watching them like play.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't have to be like, oh, the scheme's letting them down or something. Like, no, they're just really good at like one-on-one defense. Or like watching Matisse chase and like block from behind. I'm just like, every time. It's very exciting. And I just think like maybe like no like I can't think maybe nobody since Nick Batum is able to like kind of stick with guys the way Matisse does.
Hmm. You remember how often we used to like watch like Dame or CJ have somebody steal it from them from behind? And I would be like, why can't we have somebody on our team that does that? And it's so exciting because we do.
Now we got one of those guys.
Woohoo. Okay, so I think we've got Jabari's most improved fits front runner, but there are some other guys we're going to be keeping our eyes on.
Yeah.
Scoot, Matisse, maybe Anfrenee, maybe DeAndre. I don't know. It's a young man's award probably because they're just, figuring out what their styles are. I don't I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, when I think about like, I'm like, oh, who's like one of the older players on this team? I think about how like Malcolm Brogdon wears the most functional free games outfit you've ever seen.
Malcolm Brogdon always looks like he's dressed like he's at a conference. That's how I think he dresses.
He looks very like he's always wearing like a very functional hoodie and sweats, and they're not flashy. They're regular like Nike off the rack. like I that's like a guy I feel like I'd see him at Costco on the weekend. I
Mhm.
see him like traveling, like his comfy travel clothes. Like I know that guy out in the world and he's not a pro basketball player. But you know what? I'm glad that he's comfy.
Yes, yes. And if he's wearing khakis, it's because he's going to a seminar.
Yeah, on a casual Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does wear khakis, like those like regular like office khakis
Yeah.
from time to time.
What are they? Dockers. He just goes
Mm,
and gets like 5 pairs of Dockers in his size.
that's right. That's right.
Okay, moving on to our next award. This season, we are doing the social media play of the season. This is a little bit different last year when we did player. This year, we're just like making it wide open. Maybe it's a
Hmm.
fan, maybe it's an account, maybe it's a player. What are your thoughts so far on this year in terms of social media play of the season?
Well, I just want to say, just in general, I love the Trailblazers like official social presence this year. I think that they were doing a lot of really interesting, fun stuff. And I also feel like we've gotten a chance to get to know some of these young players, which is sometimes pretty hard if the social media doesn't really show it to us. Um, but like I've really loved some of the like little I don't know if this is just like a Blazers social trend or if it's like more of like a broader like trend that I've seen where they like like will ask guys to interact with you instead of it being like them just like the social person observing them, like they don't notice someone's watching them. But like there's more and more interaction now, I think, with like the person behind the camera and the person who's in front of the camera, which is, I think, sort of fun. Do you remember at the beginning of the season when they were like when the person who does social made everybody a friendship bracelet?
Hmm.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I do like the increased interaction. I've noticed that from other social accounts across the league. Like the Kings are really good. I swear they have a bit like every single time.
Oh, so are the
Every
Pacers.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
Pacers are really, they always ask their players like a question of the day when they like walk into practice
Hmm.
or something.
Yeah, like what's your favorite candy bar? Or like what movie did you see last? Or just like
Hmm.
something. And I think that's fun. It gives us a chance to get to know a little bit more personality. I agree with you. I think this year the social account has been really, really good. I really like the sort of the cutesy, warm, fuzzy vibe that they have.
Hmm.
And maybe it's easier to have that when you're not like trying to be like killers out for wins. maybe if
Right.
maybe if they were contenders, that sort of a voice wouldn't really be congruent. But now I kind of like it, and how they'll do be like, swipe to the end to peep a cutie or whatever. Like there was the one where they were like swipe to the end to see a speedster or something like that, and it was like walk up fits, and so you're like going through the walk up fits going, I want to get to the end, and what is it? And the last one was like Matisse Thybulle like running because he was like late.
Yes.
So just like that, I have really liked the Blazers social media presence. I don't know that I have like a favorite. That I feel like the social media play of the season has to be one that's like so obvious that we all know what it is. Like,
Right.
with the golden example being I'm trying Jennifer. Like we knew that the moment it happened. That was the
Yeah,
social play.
that's right. Or like the tarmac rap,
Yes.
like that was like Tristan became like a Blazers legend at that point. Like we
Hmm.
all knew that was the one. I will say one that caught my eye the other day is not one that a lot of people saw on Twitter, but one that caught my eye was during the San Antonio game. Um, Kevin Calabro, who is ill and not on the mic because he's, I think, recovering from COVID. Kevin, I hope you're feeling better. He posted during the San Antonio game a link to a YouTube music video from the Randy Rogers band called San Antone,
Oh.
which feels like maybe the first time where I was like, he listens to us, he reads our
Yes.
tweets.
He probably saw somebody going, oh, I love Kevin Calabro, but it's nice to have a night off of somebody constantly saying San Antone.
Well, it's funny. I did see one of my friends tweet, and I can't remember who it is now, so I apologize. Is it even a game against the Spurs if we haven't heard Kevin Calabro say San Antone? And then like a half an hour later, he tweeted this, and I was like,
Hmm.
he's on Twitter just like the rest of us. When he's not on the mic, he's looking at Twitter. And
He's homesick.
so I was like, okay, well, good on you, Kevin. I'm glad to know that you see what we say, but now I'm a little afraid.
Kind of like side note to that, I think that Travis and Michael Holton have done a really good job filling in. I think they've done a really good job.
They
Like,
have it.
I don't know if like they're not, I'm gonna say better than Kevin and Lamar because those guys are just so good. But I've always really enjoyed Michael Holton. Something about the way that he talks about the game speaks to me. And maybe it's because I'm not like a super high level, I don't have like a super duper high level understanding the game. And Michael Holton seems to talk about it in a way that just really resonates with me. So I've enjoyed it.
I really like them too, and I also really appreciate like Travis is really good play-by-play in general. Like so I tweeted about this the other day, but like I've kind of been doing this thing casually over the season because I have League Pass now is I put the game on a pair of headphones, for my TV and I walk around my house and I do chores, especially if it's not a Blazer game, like and I just kind of keep track of whose broadcasters give me a general sense of what's on the TV. Like, do I have to be watching the TV at all times to know what's going on? Or can I listen to what somebody's telling me? And Travis does a really great job. In general, I generally know what's happening in the game. And I gotta be honest, like the spectrum is not actually good on that. Like a lot of teams don't tell you what's going on hardly at all. And
Mhm.
I don't think that you need to do that entirely because you are like a game broadcaster as a like or like TV broadcaster as opposed to like a radio broadcaster where people literally can't see the game. But like it's still nice to be able to be able to describe what's happening on the screen, especially for accessibility type of stuff. And also because I just think that that's like just generally good for your audience.
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, Travis has done a really good job. I really enjoyed Michael Holton. Um, I will say sometimes like the basketball like color guys on like across the league, I will say, I don't even know what they're saying half the time. And Michael, I generally understand what he's trying to explain to me related to the game.
Mhm.
And so that I can really appreciate that. There's definitely some guys out there where I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about here anymore. Is this basketball or is this a thing you did last weekend?
Yeah, no, they've filled in really well. Yeah, to go back to like the social media play of the season topic, another thing that I've noticed is that I just don't think this particular group of guys is as online as our previous teams were because I mean we had Dame and CJ and those
Yeah.
guys were extremely online. And I'm wondering like also sort of with the downfall of Twitter and people kind of like spreading out to different apps and like I'm not actually on TikTok seeing what anybody's doing on TikTok. Don't get me started on threads. But I'm wondering if sort of the golden age of players on social media like is coming to an end.
Yeah. Also,
Also,
guys are getting in trouble because of their presence on social media. And
mhm,
like some guys have made some like unforced errors by posting stuff on social media that they shouldn't. Like we
mhm,
just saw with Josh Giddey with OKC and we saw with John Morant. Like these are guys that if they just weren't on social, they would not be in trouble.
mhm. And I would imagine that people who care about them are advising them to not be on it. um
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not no single play has stuck out to me. I have noticed that again, our the star of this podcast so far, Jabari, has been online, and Scoot is fairly online. And I wonder if maybe as Scoot gets older, he might be like he shares a lot of stuff and reposts a lot of stuff. So maybe he'll get get more active. But yeah, I have let's just say it's wide open in my mind right now. Who's gonna win social media play of the season?
I have one more I want to like shout out. I forgot. Just like yesterday, Matisse posted a story that he wrote about W.H.A.T.
The video that he made about him. Yeah.
Yes. And I
The
love that because I think that so I'll say I like Matisse's videography work. I loved his bubble vlog. And I love that he also like used his I guess his access to his teammate to like tell a great story and like help us as fans get to know this player that we don't always hear a lot from. And I was like, I don't know, I it made me like him more. It made me like them both more.
It was lovely. Now, did he also have written stuff that went along with it, or was it just a video?
No, it's just the video.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was so good. So we have all kinds of recommendations this podcast. I recommend everybody go watch it. Matisse posted about it, and I it was different than I thought it was gonna be.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not gonna give away what it was like, but it was just like I walked away from that going, like, wow for Whop and like what a treasure he is and how lucky we are to have him. Like it's been fun to watch him, be a good player. I mean, remember that first remix game? We were all tuned in because it was the first remix game and we were like, sweet, this is gonna be fun. And then this guy goes off and scores 37 points. The center's shooting threes, and it was like, oh my gosh. And then he gets to play on the team and he's able to like I mean, he's not obviously scored 37 points, but he's been consistently shooting threes and making many of them, enough of them,
Hmm.
I would say. But just hearing his whole story, I thought Matisse did a really good job, and it was clear that he was comfortable, that WAP was comfortable telling the story to his teammate. Yeah, it's really good. That I mean, I think people consider YouTube social media.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And like I I just think it's really interesting also that like Matisse feels like a little bit introverted to me. Um, and I think it's really funny that like some of his best social media presence isn't necessarily about him. It's about
Hmm.
others.
Hmm.
And so I love that. And I love that you get to see a little bit of like kinship that he has with one of his teammates. We get to know him a little bit better. And I'll say I root hard for the atypical rookie.
Hmm.
Like his journey is very different to the NBA. I'll be so excited when we convert him to like a standard NBA contract. I will so I'll say, in my house, we keep a bottle of champagne in the wine fridge at all times so that if there's something that's worth celebrating, we can celebrate it immediately right there and just pop a bottle of champagne. Um, and when they convert him to one, I will pop that bottle of champagne because I will be so excited for him because he earned that contract. He has been so important for our team, especially considering like we've had injuries this year. He's had to fill some really big shoes. Like he was he's like been doing some like dual duty for a while with the remix and with the Blazers and like I don't know. I just appreciate everything that he's put forward this year and I hope that he like Drew Eubanks. Like,
Hmm.
do you remember when I said like 2 years ago? I was like, it's not like Drew Eubanks is going to be on this team next year, and then he was, and he played great, and then he earned another contract with Phoenix. I will
Yeah.
be thrilled to see all of these guys earn more contracts, and I
Hmm.
think that Reith has done that here.
Yeah, I hope it's the Blazers who are giving it to him. There will be trouble with a capital T if the Blazers do not convert him. I mean, honestly, the way it is right now, yeah, he's been so much. He's been there. He really has filled a lot of the Drew Eubanks role, except for the way he plays. But the way that like as everybody was just dropping, Drew was there and he held it up as best as he possibly could, and he did better than anybody thought that he would.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I'm so happy to be wrong about him. Where I was like, he's not going to be on the team next year, and we brought him back, and he played better than ever. Like thrilled for him, thrilled for anyone that happens to. Um, yeah, and
Didn't
I'd be so excited when Reith is on our like official roster.
didn't Drew have like a really important end of the game play the other day on Phoenix?
Yes. Well, it wasn't exactly like a play, but like they had to make a comeback to win.
Okay.
And I watched this game. They had to make a comeback to win, and he came in and was kind of the spark for that.
Hmm.
And one of my favorite parts about that was that like when they interviewed, because the post game interview was Kevin Durant, he like shouted out Drew Eubanks first and specifically to say like he really helped make this possible, this comeback. And I was so happy because I remember there were times when he would come in for us and
Hmm.
make comebacks possible. And I wonder if that's just like his whole thing, but like, I don't know, he plays hard. He's always ready when his like number is called. And I also really just appreciated that like a superstar like Kevin Durant could acknowledge that like this is somebody who helped us get there. And I'm going to call him out by name because we don't think of him as somebody who plays like this big prominent role in this team, but like in this moment, he was the reason why we're able to pull out a win.
Hmm. One of the reasons I've grown to really like and appreciate Kevin Durant more over the last few years is because he's the kind of guy who does that. He will call by name the people who maybe aren't the biggest stars, but who made the impact, and I really appreciate that about it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, he's a very generous star in that way. A lot of the
Hmm.
times when I hear him like on podcasts or whatever, like he's very it's not hard for him to name guys who he admires and they're not necessarily like big guys.
Hmm.
Like he's talking about like, oh, I really like watching Obi Toppin play in Indiana who comes off the bench and like, you know, I don't know how many other people are talking about Obi Toppin on
Yeah.
podcasts, but like Kevin Durant did.
Yeah, Kev, and he just clearly loves the game. But that the discussion about Drew Eubanks is kind of a segue into our next award. We have two more. Blazer Legend, and it's sort of loosely defined right now as a Blazer who, or as somebody who used to be a Blazer who does something impactful, hopefully to our team, but we don't know. And it,
Yeah.
again, the golden copy is Josh Hart, and him taking the time after he left Portland, like you talked about, taking the time after he left Portland to say how much he appreciated the organization at a time that we really, really, really needed that. So the idea of the Blazer Legend Award is that if somebody out there who used to be a Blazer did something that's really a solid for our team or our community, they're going to get the award. Anyone stood out to you so far?
I have a couple in mind, I will
Mm-hmm.
say. Um, so I will say I can't think of anybody who's done something specifically impactful for the Blazers this season, really. But there's always some people that I have sort of in mind. I always look at what Josh Hart is doing in New York. I think he's super funny still. Um, and I will say that one of the things that came to mind is you and I both saw this video of Rasheed Wallace.
Would you like to introduce it or and bear the wrath of the people who disagree with us, or would you
Yes,
like me
sure.
to?
Yes, no, I can do it.
Because we
So
agree on this one.
there is a clip there is a clip of Rasheed Wallace saying how he doesn't like Bill Walton. And he talks about how Bill Walton was not the man on that championship team. Maurice Lucas was the man on that championship team, and how Bill Walton has been failing up
Yeah.
his whole career.
I think the way you said it is that, oh, Rashid said the quiet part out loud with knowing that you and I both have always sort of been on the same page about this.
Yes. And we
Everybody's
know,
turning off the podcast right now. They're like, no, we can't listen anymore.
I know that Bill Walton is very important to our franchise and lots of people love him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this. People love to put him on broadcasts to talk about basketball or whatever, and I cannot listen to him.
Mm-mm.
Like
Mm-mm.
every time somebody makes me like listen to him when it's like I'm trying to watch a game, I'm miserable. I'd rather listen to no sound than that sound. I never understand what's going on. I know some people love him and they're like, "Oh, yes, he's you know, like wilding Bill Walton, but he's our wilding Bill Walton." I don't feel that way. He's not
Yeah.
mine. I don't want it. I
I
don't want to
turn it
listen to
off.
him.
If I have to, I'll change the channel. I can't. I can't. I can't. So, well, that was yeah, that was something that happened online that a former Blazer did. Rasheed Wallace talking about his feelings about Bill Walton, which are somewhat shared by
Us here at
members of
least.
this podcast. Okay,
Yes.
I actually have a candidate for somebody who did a solid for the Blazers.
Yes.
And
Please tell me.
I just thought of it not long ago. Um during the ice storm, when everybody was making fun of Portland about the ice and DeAndre Ayton being stuck at his house,
I know who this is. This is a great
our
one.
former Blazer, Damon Stoudemire. So one of the local sports writers said, seems hard to believe anyone try a snowmobile from a safe place to his house. Funny how it happened to a guy not exactly known for his love of the game. Sorry, I'm making faces. Damon retweeted that and said, happened to Dale Davis. He almost killed himself trying to get from the west side to the arena. This is tricky. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Thank you, Damon Stoudemire. Applause, applause, applause. He is my front runner right now for Blazer Legend.
That's a really, really good one. It's also a really kind way to intervene with somebody saying something so snarky.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. So, but while I was looking for examples for Blazer Legend, I didn't really find any more that were as direct as that one, but it did send me down a rabbit hole of finding like what some of the guys are up to. There's a
Mm.
lot of new babies.
Oh my God, I know so many babies.
Obviously Nas, he just became a father for the first time, which is weird. I think we were all so excited about that. But Pat Connaughton is going to have a baby. And I think Alan Crabb they just had their second, and Jake Layman just had their second, And Jake Lehman is playing in Japan right now, and it looks like they're having a really good time. I follow his wife on Instagram, and it seems like they're really enjoying their experience in Japan, and that like the team and the people who watch the games really love his kids.
They
They
have a cute
really,
family.
yeah, they really like Jake's kids. Um, and then it also made me go wonder what Ben McLemore is up to. You know, my heart, Ben McLemore.
Right.
He's
What's he
currently,
up to?
well, he's currently playing in Spain,
Okay.
and he played for Greece, and now he moved over to, he's in the FIBA Champions League, so he's like in a high league, and he's playing with Rio Breogan. I'm not sure how to say that. So um oh, another Blazer legend one potential. And this isn't really a legend in so much as that like he like took the heat off of us or like explained something, but it was a really fun interview. Again, another podcast. Do you think I'd do nothing else? LaMarcus on All the Smoke
Mm.
broke out the Andre Miller stories. I love Andre Miller. I love hearing stories about Andre Miller, and LaMarcus told like 3 of them. So me and LaMarcus are the same way. Like just like start talking about the Blazers, and eventually it's going to turn into an Andre Miller story.
Was that the same one where he talked about how he doesn't remember any in middle school because he was too
Yes.
stoned?
Yeah. Yeah. But
I
that was another one I recommend.
I think it's really interesting that LaMarcus is coming out of his shell now that he's retired.
Hmm.
I always kind of felt like he was like an introvert, and that was why he had a hard time connecting with the fans in this way that people really wanted. But like he seems to be coming out in his own way on his own terms, like and like sharing more about himself and his life.
Hmm. Yeah,
Eh.
I think it's important because it's on his terms. So maybe that's why he's more comfortable.
Yeah, I've always like really struggled with like some of these players that we have some mixed feelings about, and I always kind of think to myself, I'm like, maybe they're just introverts, and that's fine. So I think about Clyde, I'm like, maybe Clyde was just an introvert, and that's fine.
Hmm.
Um,
I
anyway,
think a lot of them probably are.
yeah. And they work in a
Um,
job where they're like kind of expected to not be to some degree.
well, but I feel like the reason that they got there is because they are,
Mm,
you know, because they have that internal motivation and drive, and um you know, they don't get distracted. But
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, those are my Blazer legend front runners right now.
I would also say I think that Mo Harkless should be in this discussion for Blazers Legend because he came back to
Yes.
the remix. And that is a role that you take at this point in his career because you're there to be a mentor and to do something for younger players. Um and so, you know, I would also just like to mention Mo Harkless, and I hope that, you know, he gets to do whatever it is that he's here to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a great one. I'm glad you brought him up. All right, the final award for us to talk about today is Most Valuable Blazer. Again, this is a new one, not super defined, but if you were going to talk about who you think, at least at this point, who's the most valuable Blazer, who comes off the top of your head?
It's so hard to say.
You know what?
Um,
I was thinking, so before we like go too much into it, I could tell you like what some of the totals are or what somebody's are averaging just for fun. Um,
sure.
So Anfrenee is currently the highest scorer at 23.7, followed by Jerami, and then Shaden.
Wow.
It's
I feel like
pretty,
it's been so long since we've seen Shaden.
I know. It's a pretty significant drop off. It goes Anfrenee at just shy of 24, Jeremy at 21, and then Shaden is just about 16. And then Malcolm is at 50, just about 16 as well. Just as far as totals go, the other thing that's so hard about this, the thing that's so hard for me about this season is the injuries,
Yeah.
because you just can't get any, we don't know, we still don't know what the story is, because I think we know more about who this team is. I think we know a lot more about
Mm.
who this team is, but we still don't have a full picture because people are so in and out of the lineup. It's just like, it's just it's just really hard to know what the team has, and I think they're doing pretty admirably, you know, with what they've got. But
I
I
kind
think,
of wonder if the team is being overly cautious this year with some of these guys. Just simply because they know it's still part of the rebuild years, and these are people whose like health they want to be super careful with, right? Like either because like, like I mean, just in general, it's important to be that way with long-term health. But also because like you never know who you're going to be trying to trade. Like, like there's a lot of reasons I think why the way it feels like they're being overly cautious with some of these like soreness,
mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, I think that's seems like a good possibility. The ironic thing is at the end of the season, when these guys are not playing postseason, they're going to be less banged up. You know what I mean? Because like the guys who are contending, like they have to play their guys because they're trying to get in there, and so they end up like really banged up. So it's kind of just a little irony. So the player who scored the most points is Jerami Grant, followed by Malcolm Brogdon, and then Anfrenee, because Anfrenee missed many games. And then Shaden's number 4. And followed by Scoot. So, just that's just a little bit about who's scoring. Who do you think has the most rebounds? Let's go with total rebounds if you had to guess.
Wreath.
No, DeAndre Ayton.
Oh,
He's the most total rebounds. He's
okay.
got 306, followed by Jabari.
Hmm.
And I mean, Reese has a lot. He has 133. But I just
I guess
think
he also
minutes
didn't,
wise, he just hasn't played as many.
yeah, he's played a lot more recently, but not as much earlier. Um,
Yeah, his minutes, like DeAndre Ayton has like 900 minutes and WAP is only at 598. So if we looked at it like that was just total I gave you. So per game or per
right.
36, let's look at per 36. Well, Moses Brown,
For
followed by
36.
DeAndre and Robert Williams. When I was
Oh,
watching for the bench celebrator, man, oh my God, those 6 games that Robert Williams played were really fun. He got a lot of dunks, and I'm trying not to talk about dunks because it depresses me, but he got a lot of dunks in those 6 games.
can I tell you, I have a lot of regrets because my fantasy basketball team's name was sort of like it was sort of an homage to this thing that like maybe Robert Williams wouldn't be a Blazer for very long.
Uh-huh.
Like either because of injury or we trade him or something like that. Um, and I have regrets that I named my team that because I feel like I made this happen.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't your fault. I'm sure it wasn't your fault.
My fantasy team is Time Lordinger's cat.
Oh gosh. I think what it means is it'll keep him around even longer because I would love to see how he plays with the team because those few games were really, really fun.
He's really fun when he's healthy. He just has had such a hard career with his
Mhm.
like knee and leg health.
Mhm. But probably not going to be the most valuable Blazer this year.
No.
I mean, you never know. But
I feel like Wreath is a good candidate.
okay.
And here's why. Because he's been asked to fill like kind of a big role, and he's still a two-way guy at this point.
Hmm.
And I think that's like kind of amazing. And also he's able to like bring a level of like he's like I'll say he's like a young player career wise, but like a little bit more of a mature player because of his age.
Hmm.
Um, and so I appreciate that he brings some of that like young guy hunger for like,
Hmm.
finding his place in the NBA, but maybe has a little bit more of a maturity about him. Like that video of Matisse made me feel like, oh, this is maybe an old soul.
Hmm.
Um, and that doesn't necessarily translate on the court, and I don't know what he's like, when he's with the team, but I will say he's on the court, he has filled a pretty important big role for a guy who's still a two-way guy. And he's done it all in stride, and you never like see him like get really, really frustrated. And I'll say he gets some unfair like ends of the whistle, in my opinion, because he's like kind of not as well known. And I don't know. I think he's done a really nice job filling a very hard role on a team that is like very desperate to have somebody be a center, especially between like Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton, like they're like who else is going to be our center? Moses Brown, I guess, but like,
He's also
you
out
know,
with injuries. I mean, and it's all because
right,
of injuries.
right. And Reith still shows up, does his job, does it the best he can. I don't know. I'm very, very like I don't know where we would be if we didn't have him.
Okay. Okay.
Just because that's a particularly thin role on this team.
Hmm. Yeah. So I don't know if he would be my candidate for most valuable Blazer, but I can see voting for him for most inspirational Blazer.
Mm,
I that's what I think about him. I looked at it like kind of like you said at the end there about like where would the Blazers be without this person?
hmm
And so my leading candidates, well, I don't know, it was hard because we have had some guys who like really like we would be lost in the wilderness without them. And one of them I'm going to say is Malcolm Brogdon, even if he's not here by the end of the season, that could potentially take away from it. But like
mm,
if we didn't have Malcolm Brogdon, he's the guy who comes in when it looks like we actually have a chance to win. He can come in, get everybody focused on what needs to happen, make it happen. He can come in if nobody's making a shot and make some shots. And he's also just, I believe, so critical to making sure Scoot Henderson is learning how to become the kind of point guard that he can be.
mm.
And so Malcolm is one of my candidates for that. And Anfrenee, like
Yeah.
I've been really impressed with Anfrenee, and we're always going to appreciate the fact that he can play both point guard and shooting guard. He has missed a lot of games though. And so I'm not sure like wins and losses wise. I mean, clearly they're a better team when Anfernee is playing.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
he has
he's the
important
best
skills
player.
good.
He's like the best player on this team. Or I guess there's an argument for Jerami as well, but like,
Yeah. And Jeremy's my other one. Like, I don't know how I would choose between Anfernee and Jerami. Like, I think right now for me, Malcolm is a little bit higher just because of, in addition to his play, his like mentoring of
mm,
of our point guard, who is like the future of the franchise. If everything turns out, Scoot will be the future of the franchise. And Malcolm's, presence with him. And then there's Anfernee and Jerami, and I'm not quite sure how I would rate the difference between the two of them.
yeah, it's hard to say. I am. I will say like so is this award supposed to be about on the court?
I don't think it necessarily has to be,
Okay.
but I don't know. I mean, I don't think it necessarily has to be. I think it will be pretty closely tied. And I think that had the Blazers, or if the Blazers go into actual pure tank mode again, where they're actively trying to not win as opposed to just actively not being able to win, it might
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. That makes sense. In that way, I will say, like, I think that, like, obviously, like, there's a lot of value for like the vets, you know,
Mhm.
Brogdon, Ant, Jerami. Those guys make a lot of sense to me. Brogdon, I mean, like, I mean, who like I think that we all are sort of expecting that he won't be here on this team by the end of the season. But if he is, it feels like it's his to lose.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I don't
And
know, like,
and even if he leaves, I also still think that he is going to have a case for a while because I think he's been integral to getting us to this point where if he does move on, I feel like Scoot at least has enough of a foundation that, you know, he's not going to be able to have Malcolm Brogdon come in and like close the gap if they're behind, but I think he's still going to have everything that he learned from Malcolm Brogdon.
mhm. Yeah. And I also like will say that I think and I don't want to say that this is necessarily like better or worse, but like he was brand new to this team this year and accepted this very different role after coming off a really great season where he was um sixth man of the year.
Mhm.
Like, so he wasn't like, I feel like there's like it's maybe a harder proposition to say to some guy who is just on a contending team that doesn't necessarily have the same bond with some of these players or like the franchise or anything like that to come in and say, yeah, I'm coming in to be a mentor.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it takes like a certain kind of player to like commit to doing that for any amount of time. Um, I don't know. That's just I think that like a lot of players have a hard time accepting when like they're like a vet enough to do that. That's like going to be like a kind of role that they could serve in should they choose.
Mhm.
Not everybody wants to do that.
You
I'll
know,
just say.
thinking about this award and how I was leaning towards Malcolm for it at this point really made me um I'm not going to say regret, but it was pretty sad. I went down the like, gosh, what if Damien had just stayed for half a season?
Oh no,
Like,
don't do this to yourself.
what could Scoot have learned from Damian Lillard if Damian had just stayed for half a season? Of course, that would mean probably that, oh yeah, you can stay so we can get you to Miami where you want to go and blah blah blah. We've already talked about how
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
we are with how things went. But just like, oh, I just would love to know what Scoot could, but you know what? Maybe Malcolm is a better pair with Scoot because of the type of basketball. You know, Damien is a score first. He's a scoring point guard.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can see already how different Scoot and Damien are. So maybe he's getting everything he needs out of Malcolm, and it wouldn't have been any different if Damien, but I was like, oh God, what if?
Don't
Sad
do that to
music
yourself.
playing.
Oh, there's no good that can come from that, Tara.
We're gonna see him this week. I have
I
my
know.
I have my Damien shirt from Trailblazing. Is
Oh,
that
it's good.
isn't
Thank
it
you. What
amazing?
does it say at the bottom? Thank you
It says thank you for a good time.
for a good time.
Yeah. I
Mm.
can't make it so it sees.
Is that what you're?
Anyway,
Oh, for a real good time. It says for a
yeah.
real good time.
Yeah, thank you for a real good time. Yeah. It's just really sweet. It just really captures. And I really like it because right here on this side, it's got a rose and it
It's
says
today.
today. And of all of the things that Damian Lillard did while he was here, the shots, you know, everything that he did, my favorite thing that he did was after that shot, picking up the microphone and yelling, Rip City. And so I'm really, really happy that that's included on this shirt.
Can I say I feel like I'm in the like minority in that like that first shot over Houston
Uh-huh.
is my favorite shot of his and not the one over Paul George.
Hmm.
The Houston one is my favorite. Because it was like that was like where we got introduced to who Dame was going to be. And it was like when he did it against Paul George, like, yes, it was like it was amazing and it was a harder shot, you could say, but like I didn't feel the same way about it because there was part of me that expected there was a part of me at that point where I was like, he can make any shot.
Hmm.
I can expect him to make any shot. And when that shot in Houston fell, I didn't know if he was that guy or not. We didn't know like how like clutch he could be in those moments. And the play wasn't even for him. You watch that play. I've watched that play 100 times. That play isn't for him. That play is
Hmm.
for LaMarcus.
Hmm.
But Dame was so open. He was like, give it to me.
Yeah.
And Nick hit him. Nick hit him a little late, but he hit him
Yeah.
and he got that shot. And it was like an announcement of who Dame, like it put him on like in my mind a different trajectory of the kind of player that he was going to be. And when he did against Paul George, it was like, yeah, he can do that.
Yeah. We knew this was gonna come. Yeah, totally.
So
Well, I'm
are you gonna wear that shirt on Wednesday?
definitely.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, definitely gonna wear it. Okay, we better wrap it up.
Yes.
So takes, Rose, what's your take?
I have a take for you this week, and I think, well, I hope you're gonna like it. Now I really
Okay.
feel like maybe I've oversold it.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know if you saw, but they leaked the NBA sort of leaked that on All-Star weekend, Steph and Sabrina are gonna like
Yeah,
stand off in a 3-point
I
contest.
did see that.
Okay, but here's the thing. I thought about this more and more. I'm like, oh, that's great. And then I was like, is it though? And this is my take. Bringing Sabrina to the men's all-star game, I feel like one, so she's the reigning champ, right? With
Hmm.
the number of points, like the number of points that she scored in the 3-point contest. She has more than Steph ever got.
Hmm.
Usually when you're the champ, people come
People
to
come to
you.
you.
Yeah, people come to you. And I was like, is this the NBA's desperate attempt to ride Sabrina's success? Because their all-star game is like kind of fledgling at this point. And then anyway, I thought about this a while and I decided I was like, I'm all for this. I wish it was at the women's all-star game, Steph coming to Sabrina to play
Hmm.
on Sabrina's turf. I was like, but this is this is Steph riding Sabrina's coattails, not the other way around, because Steph is an aging star with the sun setting on his career, and Sabrina's on the way up. So that's my take.
All these gimmicky uses of female athletes drive me nuts at the All-Star weekend. Like having WNBA players playing the celebrity game just annoys me. And bringing in Sabrina, like that's like, oh, like isn't it cute? We're bringing in a woman. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. But like, what do the people know? They don't know what they're, they got to do something, I guess, to
Yeah. So
try to.
that's my take. This is Steph riding Sabrina's coattails, not the other way around.
I like it. Yes. I like it. Well, my take also has to do with the All-Star weekend. I think if Shaden doesn't want to do the dunk contest, he shouldn't do the dunk contest, and we should all just let him decide what he wants to do. Like, I understand people like no, I actually don't. I'm done listening to conversations about Shaden like has to go to the dunk contest, just like Anfrenee had to go to the dunk contest. Like these guys are more than dunks. I mean, obviously he plays a Blazer, so he like doesn't dunk anyway. But like I just like just the again the gimmicky nature of the dunk contest. I don't think Shaden wants to be a gimmick. He wants to be a well-rounded player. And when you're really young and you go and you do the dunk contest, and that's all you're known for, is like, you won the dunk contest, and then eventually you get traded to Portland and you stop dunking. But anyway, I think everybody should leave Shaden alone. And if he wants to do the dunk contest, he can do the dunk contest, but we should stop trying to pressure him.
I agree. Also, the dunk contest is like not what it used to be. Like they can't even get guys to do it anymore. It like they went from getting like the very best dunkers in the NBA to like guys who were like a little bit younger, like who are like kind of on their way up in the NBA to do it. And now they're like literally like last year, like the champion was a guy who's in the G League.
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Yeah.
gonna bring him back to defend his title. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought this was the NBA All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, the Blazers should send their newest player, Taz. Is it? I don't know. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but I saw his name and I was like, oh, now we have Taysmore instead of Bazemore. But his first name is different than that. It looks like Bazemore, but it's like Taz, I think more. Everyone's like, oh, you guys are gonna love him. He's a dunker, and I'm like, is he ever gonna dunk again? He's in Portland. Let him go. Let him go up against Mac McClung.
Yeah, so I had an idea for the dunk contest, and I think what they should be doing actually is like just the home team, the host team, they should all do the dunk contest
Yes.
against each other for
Hmm.
like, because I know that they all do it in practice, and it's just for bragging rights to
Hmm.
do it in front of like an audience for bragging rights. And then it would at least be like sort of fun among them because not all of them are like good dunkers, and that's like I'm sure they all know that. But then it could just be like out there for the public to watch, and it's not about like, competing against a field of six randos that may or may not be in the NBA, like then it's just like for bragging rights in your locker room and the host team has to do it. Even the guys who are like not good dunkers, everybody's got to do the dunk contest and then they find the king.
Yeah, that's one time I was doing research on the dunk contest and I found out about a pre All-Star game dunk contest that actually took place throughout the entire year. And as teams played each other, they had guys go against each other and it culminated in, a final dunk off. I need to go find that and so I can tell the whole story because I was like, this is really fun because it went throughout the whole year. And so like before, like during a game, they would have like the dunk off, and then it would happen again. So I will go find that for one of our future episodes in case we run out of things to talk about.
Because we always run out of things to talk
Right.
about.
I know. Speaking of that, we better wrap it up here. Rose, it's been so great to catch up with you. It's been too long. Hopefully, we can get back on our weekly, or at least mostly weekly cadence. And we still have a lot of players that we need to learn more about. Hopefully, nobody that we didn't do won't get traded, because that would be a bummer. But yeah, it's just great catching up with you again. And I'm glad for everybody who's listening. Thank you. I don't know what I was like, maybe we should change up how we end this.
I
But I
just
don't
want to,
know.
well, I just want to say you guys probably at this point know where to find us on socials.
Yeah.
Tara and I will both be at the game on Wednesday. So if you think you saw us, yes, you did. Come say
Yes.
hi. We would love to see you and chat with you and show us what outfits we chose to wear for the Bucks Blazers game.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it, because this is going to be the first game you attend this year. Have you attended
Yeah,
another game? All
I haven't.
right.
It's
I
my first
can't
one.
wait. Can't wait to see what you choose. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Find our podcast, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on all the places that well, actually, we only are on Twitter, as pretty much the only place that we're hanging on till the very end. So go find us there. Thanks for listening, and go Blazers.